Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Oktant Build in Public video series. In today's video, I'm going to take you through how to build an interactive web prototype using React Native, the Expo framework, and Google's next-gen agentic IDE, Antigravity. So as a quick recap, before jumping into episode 2, I'll touch on the purpose, the why, behind Oktant, and a summary of what we built in episode 1. I created Oktant because I believe that we all struggle to varying degrees with living life intentionally and by our own design. I know I do. Oktant is then a navigational tool that leverages the concept of the 8 core life slices, the science behind habit formation and gamification, including things like resonance points, character building, quests, and streaks, to help us improve day by day, to stop drifting and live in our thrive states. In episode 1, I covered how to build a landing page using Firebase Studio. For Oktant, the landing page was the first part in validating the idea by showcasing some of the concepts, including the framework, some degree of interactivity, and a clear call to action, which at the time was a registration to become a founding user. In the latest version, it's call to action to try the prototype. So that brings us to the interactive prototype that's now directly linked to the landing page. I'd originally thought to create a simple digital prototype using Figma to solicit customer feedback on. But while putting that together, some good old-fashioned scope creep came in, and I thought, why not make it a function app with multiple user flows and some state management to give users a more real-life feel for what Oktant could be. So what we have now is a fully interactive experience showcasing some of the mechanics behind the concept, all built in about a week. Having done this once now, I feel pretty confident that you can accelerate that timeline even further. But my gut feel is that sorting out all of the non-functional requirements like performance, reliability, cost, security, etc., will, and I think appropriately, still take some time and effort to get right. In kicking off this phase of the build, I had to spend some time thinking through the user flow for the app, which led me to a realization. I've never properly done this before. So my background's in software engineering. I started as a Java engineer, mostly doing application backend work. Over the years, I graduated to being more full stack with exposure to different languages, different application stacks, exposure to cloud and DevOps, and also built out my fair share of front-end interfaces as well. But I'm not a UX designer. Over the years, I've worked with them, but I've never designed from scratch. So I did what I imagine most people do. I found a course online to help me bridge the gap. And in my case, I quite enjoy the Google courses offered on Coursera, so I jumped into the Build Wireframes and Low Fidelity Prototypes course. The course is part of a broader UX design professional certification, which covers foundational knowledge, design process phases, research, and testing concepts through usability studies. I'm sure most UX purists wouldn't be too impressed with this next bit, but for my needs, I focused just on the wireframe and prototyping sections. Might be a poor excuse, but I'm going to blame it on the fact that I'm in bootstrap mode. Google structures their courses to include practical exercises towards building a portfolio project. So I used Oktant as the use case behind building my paper wireframes. And here's a probably questionable example of some of the screens I iterated while doing the course. These would then become digital wireframes and then a digital prototype using Figma. I use Figma Make, which is Figma's AI-powered design interface to quickly go from idea into a working prototype. This was one of the first prototype screens that I created, and it includes user flows across the app dashboard and the Forge, which is where users create their quests. The Figma Make interface was incredibly simple to use. Again, I used my Google Workspace Gemini, which holds the master context behind Oktant, to generate a Figma Make prompt to create the initial iteration. This was focused on scaffolding the foundation of the app, so the various menu items, and then going into some depth to build the first version of the dashboard. I iterated a few versions of the prototype before running out of tokens, which got me to thinking. The original intention was to make a simple digital prototype that I could share with my founding users and others for feedback. But instead of treating the digital prototype as throwaway code that is generated by Figma Make, maybe it was time to pivot to creating the actual foundational code behind Oktant. So I chose Antigravity because I was looking for a simple desktop-based agentic IDE experience. I wanted to leverage AI agents to execute across complex tasks like designing and implementing requirements from design doc, to adding features or debugging issues, and I wanted them to work at varying levels of autonomy, i.e. in collaborative or outsource mode. At the time of the video, Antigravity was still in preview, but for my use case, I was hard-pressed to find too many issues with it. That said, I still have a long way to go with agent automation and properly leveraging agents across the development lifecycle. And as the Oktant use case evolves, I'll share my thoughts on these more advanced features in later episodes in the series. Once Antigravity is installed, you'll need to log into your Google account, so either a personal or Google Workspace account will work in preview. Being new to React Native and the Expo framework, I jumped onto the Expo Docs website and found a simple tutorial to get started using an example project. I use this template to scaffold my project before working with agents. And for this demo, I'll take you through the steps I used to build the Oktant app and focus on just one key feature, specifically task management. So to get started, make sure you have the long-term support version of Node.js installed, and then open up a new folder in Antigravity. I'm going to use an existing demo folder for this tutorial. Open up the terminal and enter the command npx create-expo-app at latest space name of project, task list in this case. This should take a few minutes to complete. With the app scaffold complete, we can now start the Expo server and choose to run either Android, iOS, or web versions for testing. I chose to run web and use the Expo Go app for device simulation. I preferred this for a more hands-on experience with the app versus using an emulator on my desktop. So first, let's navigate to the newly created project folder, and then let's run our app using npm run web. The app should automatically open in your default web browser. I recommend using Chrome for building out your app with Antigravity. There's a browser extension that allows you to verify and test your UI using agents, which can save a lot of time in the typical development flow. So the example app's pretty basic, but with everything now set up, it's time to get building. You can also use the mobile Expo Go app to scan the generated QR code and test your app on your mobile device. But let's first reset our project using npm run reset-project. Now we can start working with Antigravity to build our app. First, let's dig into Antigravity's two key conversation modes, planning and fast. Planning enables you to work collaboratively with your chosen model, and the agent creates an implementation plan for your approval before executing. This is great for large features and complex implementation. The second option is fast, and fast enables the agent to work more autonomously to solve tasks quickly. This is better suited for basic feature implementation and troubleshooting and debugging. We want to use planning for the first phase. For Oktant, I used my Google Workspace Gemini instance to iterate the context around the idea and then have Gemini generate a prompt for the app creation using Antigravity. For the task app, let's do the same by asking Gemini to generate the prompt that we can verify and share with Antigravity. I also shared the user flow and wireframes that were created for Oktant. For the task app, let's generate a simple UI to share with Antigravity as well. So let's copy the context and UI example across to Antigravity and start planning. The agent puts together a comprehensive implementation plan and task list for our review. We can add comments for review and prompt the agent to proceed when we're comfortable with the plan. I've added a comment for it to focus on just an async storage implementation for now. I recommend a thorough review of the generated plan. But once you're happy, you can submit your review or pick up the last conversation in the agent window. After a few minutes and a few command approvals for directory creation and package installations, etc., the agent should complete and you can review the walkthrough of what it implemented. At this point, it can feel tricky to review the entire generated codebase, and I recommend keeping your feature planning small to have manageable review blocks. Let's accept the changes and run the app. If all goes well, you should have a basic implementation of the task app running. If you have build or runtime errors, you can quickly resolve these with the agent and get to a working state. From here, it's simply a case of repeating these steps to plan and build new features, and it's how the Oktant prototype evolved into its current state. You should also consider using the version control system at this point, so something like Git, to ease your development flow. Antigravity also has a simple rollback feature, so you can undo changes while you're developing, which also helps as well. And that's it. I hope this video helped get you started with developing your own web and mobile apps using React Native, the Expo framework, and Google's Antigravity. In episode 3, I'll dive into the backend implementation for Oktant and how you can develop and connect your APIs and databases to your apps. See you soon.